Some interesting and very recent archaeology news from this article from iScience. Cliff Notes is that they genome tested a body that they found in a well that was, you know, covered in rocks and so forth. And they believe that through genome testing, both the location of the well, as well as the fact that this person would have been from southern Norway, and the genome testing confirmed that it was roughly from the time period of the saga that they found someone who is actually mentioned in the saga. Specifically, the Sverris Saga, that was, more or less the autobiography of King Sverre Sigurdsson. Where during a raid on the castle, it is described for the enemy's side to have done this. Specifically, the enemies of King Sverre who were raiding the castle. Now, if you're unfamiliar with the Sverris Saga, which a decent amount of people are, but you should read it because it is one of the few texts we have about the history of this time period that, especially now, is at least somewhat confirmed. Basically, it's the history of this time of Norway where there was a huge succession crisis. But some of the exact details have always been put into question, as while technically an autobiography, it seems that in the original manuscripts it was written by people who were close to the king, as well as very, very biased towards King Severus. So it seems like this was someone who was close to him. And so, as is with the case of many sagas, certain facts have been disputed, whether it be for political propaganda, uh, editions basically by the king who was, funding this, or possibly even just poetic grandizing of the events to make the text more interesting, etc. All of which are known to happen, which can make many events that happen in even historic sagas bring them up to academic scrutiny. But this discovery does seem to confirm that, at the very least, the description of the plundering of the castle may at least be partially correct, especially as in the saga it does describe a man, well, multiple men, putting a deceased body in the well as to poison the water during the raid. This particular raid being more of a siege of the castle, and subsequently filling the well with boulders, which is how the body was found. And one of the interesting thing is that bring up a lot of implications that has neither been confirmed by the scientist or in the saga, is that the man comes from southern Norway, which implies, but doesn't prove, that the southern raiders used one of their own dead for this. Which may have, and I'm going to emphasize the may have because this is my conjecture and not conjecture from this article, that, may have spiritual implications either onto the specific person or the specific fact that they possibly used one of their own. And the body itself was incomplete, it having lost its left arm, but its left hand was there, and there was a lot of trauma on the body. However, it has been difficult to differentiate which trauma was, ante-mortem, so before death, and post-mortem, and therefore the damage from putting boulders on top of him. But yeah, certainly interesting news where we both get, an insight in both, physical proof and more things confirming things about 800-year-old people and an 800-year-old text. So if you saw the last portion of my video, you might have noticed that I said that there were spiritual implications, or that there were possibly spiritual implications in putting a man in a well. Now, this is my conjecture, of course, but there are many legends specifically about, variety of monsters in the well. And, Nordic regions are no exception to this. And it is very possible that during the Sverris Saga, they were trying to specifically make this. And these are creatures that, for whatever reason, now they're usually called the Brond Men. There's a couple of different variations, obviously based on region, but following this, you'll see an explanation of what they are. But they're often extremely difficult to get rid of, to the point of like Christian priest can't get rid of these things. It takes a very specific kind of basically Nordic conjure practitioner to do this. And while extremely interesting, definitely could be very dangerous. And the entire point of these things is to, well, poison wells and just make things unpleasant for the people around it, which, for one thing, putting a dead body in a well just kind of does this. Like, don't take the mundane out of situations like this, but that doesn't mean that we can't have fun with possible historical interpretations of people who were very much suspicious. Hello, my name is Dari, and welcome to Vatir and Other Myths, where I talk about Nordic myths and legends. If this is content you're interested in, please press all the buttons, leave a comment, and peep the hashtag for my older videos on the subject. Today we're going to talk about the Drond Men, the Men of the Wells. These are creatures with ink-black skin and red eyes that live in, as the name implies, wells. They hide in the darkness of the well, sometimes being able to change their voice to get either creatures or people to come into the well, who are never seen again. It is believed that the Drond Man can control the spirits of anything that ends up in the well, and most often will control these spirits to spread sickness into the surrounding area. Now, an interesting fact about this creature in relation to other Nordic folklores that are post-Christian is that Christian clergy cannot exorcise this creature, whatever it may be. The only people who can get rid of it are cunning women, possibly trollkonas, and yes, everything that I've ever read does seem to specifically state women, who are able to perform a ritual on gold coins and throw them into the well, seemingly being able to pay off the Drondmand to get up and move away. Different stories seem to disagree on whether the gold coins are paying for the release of the spirits as well as it moving away, as sometimes afterwards the spirits need to be tended to. Because of the overly specific weakness, this is one of the most feared creatures in Scandinavian mythology. Thank you for watching.